So this movement class is going to be on squats. So the reason being is that squats is one of the most, if not the most fundamental movement that you can do. And hardly anyone really focuses on the actual movement. And a lot of people have got a lot of faults in their squat that can lead to just really bad movement patterns, muscle imbalances, and just a whole heap of inefficient movement and wasted energy during the actual squat. So not only that, a lot of guys are doing home workouts at the moment. Even doing it with body weight, you still really need to concentrate on this and create a good movement pattern, because if you can't do a good body weight squat, why would you put any weight to it, or a barbell on your back or anything? You're just going to really heighten the chance of any sort of injury, and it's going to ingrain those really bad movement patterns. And you might get an injury today, you might get an injury next month, but down the track someday, it'll be wearing away at something, and eventually something will pop, and then you'll be able to train for a very long time. So yes, this is a very fundamental movement. It's seen as like everyone should be able to do it. You should be able to sit in the bottom of a squat in a resting position. If you can't, then you're missing some sort of mobility or muscle imbalance, or something is going on there. So yeah, this one, yeah, that's what we're going to do. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to warm up. So this is going to be a test for you guys to see who's been doing my mobility drills. All right, we're going to start. I'm going to run you through it. So Scott, I'll just show you all. So the way I'm going to work this one, you can see, oh, you can't see my screen yet. I'm showing you something, you can't see it. But yeah, so the way I'm going to run these ones is I'm going to show you a video. I'm going to run over the video, go over a few little points, and then I'll get you to go away to do it. And I'll watch you all, and then we'll come back and we'll do some other stuff. Okay, just to give me a little bit more, overview on you guys, and I can really concentrate on watching you guys and explain it really well. Okay, so I'll just share my screen. Okay. All right, the very first one we're going to do is our whole body mobility routine. All right, this is one of the ones that we've put up in the group. Okay, I'll just let you watch it to start with, and then I'll replay it and I'll go over everything. Okay, I'll just get myself to do one side, and then I'll explain it. All right, really big movement, this one. Okay, so that's the one side done. Now, what we do first, okay, from standing up in the upright position, you try to keep your legs nice and straight here. So everyone can see this first. I'm just not talking and trying to explain something that you just can't see. Okay, so trying to keep your legs really nice and straight. So that what I like to do sometimes at the start is sort of have a little bit of a move around with my legs straight, just to open up your hamstrings a little bit. Okay, from there, you just want to creep yourself down. All right, trying to keep your legs as straight. It obviously depends on your flexibility. If you need to bend your knees, then bend your knees, but try to keep them as straight as possible. Creep your hands out into a nice plank position. Okay, from there we'll go with the left foot, bring the left foot right up, and you're trying to get a nice right angle. So in that knee there, so if your foot's too far back here, you're going to get a forward angle of the shin, and you're not going to get as good of stretch up in the hips here. Again, and then if you got your foot too far forward, again, it's not going to create that good angle to get a good stretch. Okay, once you've brought your foot up, you set yourself. Okay, if you see this, if I go back here, all right, see how my back leg is staying nice and straight. Or I don't bring it down and drop it onto the ground. If you really struggle in this position, you can drop it down, but the whole point of keeping it nice and straight is to open up the front of your hip as well. So you get a nice stretch in the bottom of the glute, the hamstrings, and also into the hip flexors as well. Okay, once we've finished that position, So opposite hand places on the ground. We're going to rotate towards that knee, all right? Really open up the chest. And we're trying to, my hand's a little bit off to the side, but we're trying to stack everything on top of each other and our chest poking straight out to the side. You'll really feel it up in the thoracic spine there. From there, you bring it down and your elbow is going to run down the inside of your shin, and you're going to try to run it down until you place it down onto the ground or as close as possible. As you can see, I can't get down, but I get very close. Right, and we're going to rotate back up, same position, everything's stacked on top of each other there, nice straight line, trying to attempt that, and our chest poking out to the side. Okay, back down, elbows down on the inside of the knee. Right, and like what I like to do with this, not everyone does this one, but place that same hand down as the foot that's out the front, and then you rotate around to the side, the opposite side, okay? Exactly the same thing, nice and stacked up, and your chest out towards the side. And you get it just a little bit different of a stretch, rotating the opposite way because your hips are just in a different position that way. Okay, and the last thing that we do, bring your hand over the other side of your foot and you try to straighten your leg out. So what I like to do first is keep that foot nice and flat and stretch it out, okay? And then the second time I do it, I lift that front part of the foot up and try to get a little bit more of a stretch out. Right, you can do this a few times. There's no set amount of times. If you feel like you need to do it a couple more times, then do it a couple more times. Right, place your hands down, feet back together, and now we're going to go into like a downward dog position. With this, you're poking your butt up towards the sky, trying to keep your legs nice and straight, and you bring your chest down at the same time, trying to open up your shoulder joint. All right. Then from there, once you get a nice stretch, just move around in it too. These aren't set positions. And then we go into the upward dog, okay? You're squeezing your boot and you're trying to squeeze your butt and you're trying to arch your back, your whole back, not just the lower part of your back. You're trying to arch everything and press down into the ground so your shoulder blades are going down rather than allowing them to shrug up towards your ears. All right, once you finish that, it's just going back up to into that plank position and bringing that other foot forward. All right, this is a big movement. It's time to see who's been doing my stuff. All right, guys, I'll talk you through it. So everyone moving out into a position that you can do all of this. Hopefully you can hear me as well. All right, make sure I can see your whole body. Okay, so everyone just go with sort of my command, like I'm going to tell you is what to do, and then you go out into that position, pause, and then I'll get you to continue, okay? Okay, so everyone's standing up nice and straight, feet relatively together, pretty much underneath your hips. You don't want them too wide, okay? Keep your legs straight and lower yourself down. So forward bend, bend at the hips, down until your hands touch the ground and creep them out into that plank position. Okay, hold that nice plank position. All right, so everyone's butt should be down and bring your left foot up to your left hand. And getting that nice right angle with your left knee. Let's go, Nandy, get it up there, nice and close, up as far as you can go. Okay, so holding that position, remember that back leg has to be nice and straight as well. Okay, now rotating, so your left arm goes up towards the sky, and you're trying to stack it up on, so shoulder on shoulder, chest out to the side. Okay, rotate back down through and your elbow on the inside of your shin and running it down towards the ground. That's it. Okay, rotate back up. Left hand up towards the sky. Hold it up there for a little bit. And elbow, yep, rotate back down. Elbow on the inside of the shin, down towards the ground. Okay, place that hand, so your left hand on the ground. Now we're going to rotate that right hand up towards the sky. This one's a little bit different. Yep, trying to stack them onto each other. Nice stretch at the top. Okay, right hand back down to the ground. Now just place that left hand over the front of that, so on the outside of your leg there. So left hand on the outside of your leg, that's it. And now sort of rock back and try to straighten your leg with your foot nice and flat. And then the second time you do it, just lift that front foot part of the foot up and try to get a little bit more of a stretch in there. Once you've done that, go back into the original position with both hands on the inside of your leg. That's it. Now bring that foot back to the other foot, so left foot back. Okay, now poking your butt up towards the sky, keeping your legs nice and straight. Trying to poke your chest down to the ground. So butt to the sky, chest to the ground, get a nice stretch in your shoulders and your hamstrings. Try to get those heels down nice and close to the ground too while keeping them straight. Okay, now laying down on the ground, on your guts and your thighs and everything on the ground, upward facing dog. So squeezing your butt, trying to put the front part of your hips down onto the ground. Remember, don't shrug, push your shoulders down and back. You're trying to sit your shoulder blades in your back pockets. Okay, now back up into the plank position. And you're going to do your right leg. And you guys go through it yourself. And I'll just be watching you. That's it, Nandy. Just fight to get up as high as you can. That's it. And rotate that right arm up towards the sky. Good, and then the elbow goes down on the inside. Yeah, this is a really good stretch for you to open up those hips. Yep, keep going through it, Nandy. So go through yourself. So arm up towards the sky again. Once you're finished, Emma and Scott, so walk yourself back to the start position and then go through one more time on each side. Yep, now it's the other side, Nandy. So put your right hand back on the inside of your foot. That's it. And your left hand up towards the sky. Good, rotating through. Awesome. Yep, back down to the ground. And then that's when that right hand goes on the outside of your leg and get a little bit more of a hamstring stretch. Yep, pulse into it. So foot flat, then raise your foot up and do it again. Try to get a little bit more. Awesome. Bring that hand back on the inside of your foot and right foot back to your left foot. That's it. And now into that upward dog pose. So butt up towards the sky, chest to the ground. Keep your legs nice and straight, trying to get your heels down as well. And go into the upward dog. So everything down onto the ground. So your thighs and arching back, pressing down into the ground. That's it. Shoulder blades in your back pockets. Okay, back up into the plank and walk yourself back into the starting position and standing up. So walk those hands back, trying to keep your, no, so walk back and so keep those into that plank position. That's it. Walk your hands back. So you're going back into the standing up. That's it. Keep your legs nice and straight, standing up. Awesome. All right. So just go through that again, Nandy. Feeling good, Scott?
It's hard to get your leg up to you.
Yeah. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of mobility. So this sort of thing you got to be really consistent with. This is a really good stretch, like a good routine for you to do daily. And you'll feel yourself, after even a couple of days, you'll feel the difference. All righty, everyone, finish off what you're doing. And standing back up, Nandy. Okay, back to the computer. I'm going to show you the next one we're going to do. So that one's really, really good just for a whole body mobility workout. Yeah, it'll just loosen up absolutely everything for you. Okay. Yeah, that one. All right, this next one is called a thinking pose. All right, this one is really, really good for squatting because you're essentially stretching in that squatting position. But what it does is it opens up like the deeper tissues in your calf muscles. So when your leg is straight, you're going to be stretching more of the outside of your calf here. But this bent knee position is going to stretch those deeper ones, and you can also feel it a lot more down into the Achilles. So this is really, really handy for squatting because it allows your knee to travel that little bit further forward, and you can just get in a much better position. Your center of gravity is a lot better, and you can be a lot more upright in the squat. So how you do it, okay, all you're doing is you're in that kneeling position, so you can't see my other knee, but it's just, I'm just on my knee and it's pointing out towards the side there, okay? I'm keeping my foot nice and flat on the ground, all right? I'm not letting it raise up. I am putting all the weight onto the front part of my foot, but I'm trying to keep it relatively flat on the ground. Don't want to raising up too far because it's sort of taking the pressure off the back of your calf here and putting it more into your feet. And it's also just reducing the load, okay? So you want to be putting all that weight on this front knee, and you're trying to close up this ankle joint here and push that knee as far forward as you can, okay? You can see I'd put a little bit more load on there, all right? And another thing you can do, obviously you just haven't got it at the moment, but because it can be, especially if you've got really tight calves, it can get pretty hard to get a good stretch with this. So use an external load just to push down on this, because sometimes like you can't get your body in a good enough position to put all the weight on there. So just getting that little bit more load on that front part of the knee really, really increases the stretch a fair bit. All right. Any questions with that? Okay, let's get down. Oh, he's got one handy. Awesome. Okay, so everyone jump back. Okay, I'll let you just get into this one yourself. There's no real cueing that I need to do with this one. Just remember, keep that foot nice and flat, and you're trying to put as much weight on your knee to push it as far forward as possible. That's it, Nandy. So keep that.
I was listening. I forgot already.
Yep. So what you want to do is just push that knee. So go into that kneeling position how you were again there. All right. So sort of squat down into it. So try to sit your butt onto the back of your calves. If you get, yep, that's it. So you want to sit, yeah, that's it. Yeah. Now what you want to try to do is get that foot a little bit flatter. Good. Yeah. Awesome. Now with this one, guys, so when you're doing this stretch, move around in the position too. Don't just hit one position, okay? Do it, push your knee towards the middle of your foot, push it towards the inside of your foot, to push it towards the outside. The outside.
Oh, I can feel it there.
Yeah. The outside and the middle is really where you want to concentrate on. The inside you'll get a little bit more flexibility because your foot will roll in, and when you're squatting, you want to have that nice mobility. You know, point with your knees slightly pointing out towards the outside of your foot. Yeah, you like that with the extra load there, Scott? Yeah. Yeah, it's good to go.
Pause for a second.
There's heaps of different, yeah, just spend a bit of time on each leg. So there's a fair few different variations you can do with this one that improve the stretch even more. Like it's hard to explain. I'll show you guys at a later date, but yeah, you can use bands to really hold your foot down flat and have your foot up on a bench. And then you can have that band holding your foot nice and flat while you're using weight on the top. And it's just the best stretch you can do for your ankles and for squatting mobility. Yeah, ankles in general.
Just need an apple.
What's that? Yeah. That's exactly what it is. The thinking pose. Yeah. All right, awesome. Just finish up on that foot that you're doing, or whichever thing you're up to. All right. Okay. Good. So we're nice and mobile now. All right. So now we're going to get into the actual. So one thing that I'm going to show you right now is it's a squat sit test. Okay. So this one, it tests your ankle mobility and a little bit of it's kind of like that, Scott, but there's more variation to it. So your ankles as well as your hips. A lot of the times it's in the ankles that people are really struggling. Sometimes it's in the hips, but with this test, it really focuses on more the ankles than anything. Okay, so I'll just show you what I'm talking about. Okay. So the whole purpose of this one is to really just outline, whether you have got good mobility in your ankles or not. And if you haven't, you really need to work on it. Okay. As you can see, just normal squat position there. Now, I'm not too worried about holding a really good position here. I am still staying relatively braced in the core and the upper back and stuff, but I'm more just like getting into like a resting position at the bottom here. Okay, so I'm just starting in my normal squat stance, all right? Somewhere I know I can definitely squat down to. Okay, the next time I do it, I'm going to bring them in just a tiny bit. So now they're inside, just inside my hip width. Okay, again, you can see now that was a little bit harder for me, right? But I can still sit down in that position. Now I'm going to try it with my feet together. And this is the real tester. All right. And still, I struggle, but I can still get there. All right. I know I can improve my ankle mobility that little bit, and you'll definitely see that on the side here. Okay. This is with my normal squat stance. All right. As you can see, I'm not too worried. All right. I'm not very braced up. I'm sitting down right into it and relaxing into it. Okay. Now, as you can see, the whole time my feet are flat. All right. I don't allow my heels to lift up onto the balls of my feet. All right, see, this is a little bit closer. As you can see, I had a little bit of a struggle there. Now, I'm not at the bottom position here. I'm not resting my hands on my thighs there. It looks like I am, but I'm just keeping them out of the way. Harder variations of this, hands behind the head. See, this is creating a little bit more of a forward center of gravity. So it's allowing me to get down a little bit more, and you'll see more when I bring my feet together. Okay, now feet together. All right, watch as I go down with this one. Okay, I'm going to slow it down. You can see my knees just stop. All right, so they get to a certain point and then they stop. That's my range. And then all of here, whoa, come back here. Now all of here has to compensate because my knees aren't allowing me to go any further forward. That's not the right one. The next one is even worse. Yeah, this one here. Okay, now my back and everything's got to compensate. See how my hands are going out further to try to compensate with that center of gravity pushing me back because my ankles aren't allowing me to, and see I've sort of nearly gone back there. Well, all right, but I can still get there. Okay, so that's the squat test. Let's have a go. I reckon you'll get it, Emma. Okay, so just do it in your own time. Start with your normal squat stance, something you know you can do. Okay, squatting down into it, and then move your feet in. All right, keeping it nice and slow, and really sit down into the bottom position. All right, don't worry about keeping too braced up or anything, but I do want you to have flat feet. Good. And just creep it in. Pretty much just have three. So one you know you can go, one a little bit harder, and then bring your feet in together. So your feet have to be together. This middle one, feet together, like the front of your feet, the back of your feet. There can't be any turnout or anything. Scott, good work. Is that feet together? Oh no, I thought your feet together. Bring them all the way together. That's it.
I'm gonna go backwards in this one.
Give that one a go again, Emma. I didn't see that.
Oh, my shins are burning.
Yeah, because it's trying to fight and bring you forward. Yeah. All right, so everyone needs to work on that ankle mobility a little bit. Emma, like I've been watching you with your mobility stuff, and every area is really, really good. Like your back's really flexible and everything, but obviously you need to just get into those ankles a little bit more. But another thing that this can be as well is you're not used to doing that position. You might have that mobility there, but the fact of just getting yourself into that position, your body just hasn't worked it out yet. So even just doing that test over like every day or so, you'll probably get better at it because you have got pretty good mobility. But do a little bit of those thinking pose stretches, do them. That will really, really help with that. All right. And like I said, a lot of the time you have to use external load with that one just because you can't get enough body weight onto the front part of your knee to get the most out of it. And yeah, I might show you with a band and stuff later on to make it even better. How'd you go, Nandy? You feeling it?
My shins can't compensate for the weight in the trunk.
Yeah. So what is happening because your ankles are
Got that booty.
what is happening because your ankles are limited? It's not allowed. So think of a Jack in the Box, how everything sort of goes down, it like scissors into together and goes down together. That's sort of what your hips and like your lower part of your shins and your thighs have got to do to be able to, and your feet to be able to compensate for, like, have a really good center of gravity. If anything is out, if your ankles are limited, now all of a sudden you can't do that. So now your center of gravity is back that way and it's pulling you back. And your shins are trying to fight to pull it forward because otherwise you're going to fall over. That's why your shins start to hurt a fair bit in that. Okay, awesome. All right, so hopefully I've got this recording in gallery view so you can watch yourself as well. And everyone else watching this. But yeah, so you can go back and actually view yourself and see the faults and sort of try to have that feedback as well. Awesome. All right, next, what do we got next? Okay, next thing I'm going to talk about before we even get into squatting is midline stabilization. So bracing your core. I've gone over this before. I did an actual core session. Nandy and Scott were in it. It was good. So the whole point of having a really stable midline, and I said this last time, it's exactly the same it's the same sort of concept, right? If you're going to go out and you're going to do the highest jump that you could possibly do, would you rather be doing it on the sand, or would you rather be doing it on a nice hard floor in the gym or on concrete or something like that, right? You're going to go for the harder surface because you can put power to the ground and get the most out of that movement. Whereas if you're doing it on the sand, you're going to be pressing into the ground, it's going to absorb, and you're going to lose all of that power. It's the same sort of thing with your midline stabilization. If you're loose and things aren't braced, you're going to be pressing into the ground, you're going to be pressing into a barbell, anything like that. And if it's not braced, you're going to lose some tension and you're going to lose that power that you're supposed to be putting into the ground, into the barbell, whatever it is. All right, so midline stabilization is a massive thing. That's why core strength is a really, really good thing for performance as well as injury prevention. And you know, as well as being able to lift more and be more powerful. Again, it's a really big injury preventer as well, because if you're doing a squat or, you know, you've got a big load on your back and you're going down to the bottom of a squat and you're shifting in any way, you don't want that happening. You want everything fixed, because if you shift, you get some sort of unbalanced load on your spine, on your hips, and all of a sudden one side's taking a lot more load than what it should be, or it'll twist a bad way and you'll blow something out. All right, so let's have a look. Got another video for you. Okay, this one, yeah, pretty much don't even need a video for it, but I'm just showing you anyway, so I can point out a few things. Okay, so with midline stabilization, it takes into account everything in your body that you're doing. It's not just in the core. It's not just here, okay? Everything that you're doing in your body will create a stronger midline, all right? So going off just a normal standing position, I'm going to go work from the bottom up and what you should be concentrating on and switching on so that you have that nice stable core. Okay, so the very first thing is having your feet nice and straight, so they're not pointing out towards the side, because once we move up a little bit, you'll understand why they should be pointing forwards. Okay, moving up. All right. We won't worry about the knee so much with this one, right? But with the hips, what we want to be doing is switching on the glutes. And to do that, you want to be externally rotating your knees. So with your feet nice and straight, you're trying to rotate your knees outwards, and it creates some torque and switches on those big glute muscles in your hips, and it stabilizes everything there and puts your hips in a much better position. Okay, now also at the hips, so what you want to be doing and I'll show you a better position. So this will probably be better to go off from the side. All right. In the side, think of, all right, a good analogy to be thinking of is 2 buckets of water, all right? A level one, so a bucket here and a bucket in line with the bottom of your ribs, all right? You don't want your hips tilting forward and losing all the water. You don't want your hips tilting back and losing all the water. Same as with your ribs, all right? You'll notice when you do some big heavy breathing or, you know, you're overextending for something, your ribs will be in a line like this and you'll be losing all your water out, okay? Again, and the other way, you don't want to be hunched over and your ribs pointing down that way and you're losing all your water out, okay? You want it nice and level, those 2 buckets nice and level with each other, all right? From there, once you've got them nice and level, what you want to do is that feeling that someone is like when you're not expecting it, but then last minute you realize someone's going to punch you in the stomach and you brace. That's the feeling you should do, like you should have when you brace your core, okay? It's not just your ab muscles or just all in the front. You should feel it the whole way around your midline, okay? You should feel it in the lower back. You should feel it in the front of your trunk. You should feel it everywhere. Just think, you know, even get someone to come up and punch you in the stomach and see how you feel when you brace up. That's how you should feel. All right, moving up, your back should be in a nice neutral position, okay? Shoulder blades with your shoulders and arms, they should be, again, like in a nice slight external rotation. You can see my hands are slightly externally rotated there, and it sits everything in a nice position. I'm not overextending in the upper back, so I'm not just bringing my chest as far forward as possible. I'm just sitting everything in a nice neutral position. Same as with the head and the neck. So your neck's in a nice neutral position and your head is straight forward. All right, so that is setting you up in a nice position to have your midline nice and strong, because even this neck position here, if you are broken at the neck, it is shown to lose strength even in your hands, okay? There is a little test, I can't remember it, but yeah, there is a test, whereas if you've got a kink neck, or compared to a nice neutral neck, you do actually lose power through your arms. All right, so the cues that I like to use for this midline stabilization, all right, other than keeping your feet and everything straight, so a good cue is squeeze the butt. So keep your butt on, turn your glutes on with that external rotation. So squeeze your butt, ribs and hips aligned, and then switch your core on. Okay, everything else you should be thinking about as well, that slight external rotation and all the neutral positions. But if you think about those 3 things, glutes on, ribs and hips aligned, and brace your core, okay, those 3 things will be sitting you in a really good position. Okay, so I won't really get you to get up and practice any of that, because we'll go over it when we're actually doing the squats. But yeah, remember that that's with absolutely everything, okay? That's not just with your squats. That's the same sort of concept if you're doing sit-ups, if you're doing your push-ups, if you're doing overhead pressing, if you're doing deadlifting, everything still works in that same position, right? If you're doing a deadlift, you're getting that nice braced position first, hinge at the hips, holding everything nice and tight, get in the position, load yourself up, lift, okay? So everything's the same, that midline stabilization, just drill it into yourself, really drill it into yourself. Okay, let's get into the actual squatting. All right, we're gonna start with, we're gonna go over body weight squats, and then I'll just show you some the barbell variation, so that you've got an idea of some technique behind it for when you go to the gym. Okay, squatting. Right, I've already gone over the whole purpose of a good squat, all right? So I don't need to go over that again. It is a super fundamental movement, and you know, if you can't do a good body weight squat, why would you be putting any sort of load on your back? Okay, I'm just gonna play this, and it does a couple of reps from the front and a couple of reps from the side. So I'll just let it play through, and then I'll explain it, and I'll get you to go off and practice it. All right. So just have a look through, just in your own head, just have a look at the different positions that I'm hitting, what my limbs are doing. Don't worry too much about the hands. You can sort of do whatever you really want to do with them. Cross them over your chest. I just feel more comfortable doing them that way. Sits me in a good position. All right. Okay. So the very first thing that I do, you can see I brace myself up, all right, midline stabilization. I'm not just dropping down into the squat. You can see me really focus on setting myself up properly before I actually go and do the movement, okay? My feet are nice and straight. Now, when I say straight feet with squats, right, everyone is obviously made up different, right? But everyone should have relatively straight feet, all right? A little bit of a turnout is completely fine, and I do have a little bit of a turnout. You can see it a little bit there, but you want to have them relatively straight. If your mobility doesn't allow you to have them completely straight, don't force them to. Just have that little bit of a turnout, because you'll end up putting all the stress through your knees and they will not like it. All right, so relatively straight or a little bit of a turnout with your feet, okay? And you can see myself, so screwing it's called screwing your feet into the ground, and that's when I'm switching my glutes on, okay? Midline stabilization, right? Ribs in line, hips in line, core on, everything in neutral position, okay? From there, as I move down into the squat, where's my button? There it is. Okay. Moving down into the squat, look at the position of my knees, all right? That's what we're gonna work on for this first rep. Right, they are pretty much going to the outside of my foot, okay? So that's where your knees should be going. I'll show you some common faults when they don't do that, but that's where you should be driving your knees the whole time, because this keeps a really good arch in your feet. That stops the thing called valgus knee, where you end up blowing out your knee. It also keeps your glutes and everything really switched on, all right? Throughout the whole squat, you should feel the balance of your big toe, little toe, and your heel. If you don't feel that, then you're unbalanced in one way. If you're feeling it, if you're not feeling it on your little toe, your foot's collapsed and your knee's probably too far in. If you're not feeling on your heels, you're lifting up onto the front of your feet, which shouldn't be happening. Okay, and again, you can go too far out as well. Where this inside of your foot starts to roll out. And that's sometimes just due to lack of mobility that you need to work on. All right, so even on the way up, see those knees stay in that pushed out position, all right, and they do not deviate on the way up. All right, now we'll have a look at the side. Nice position there. Right, so this is the top position, nice and braced up. Even in between each rep, I'm still thinking of all of those midline stabilization cues the whole time. When I'm standing up, I'm squeezing my butt as hard as I can so that I open up all of my hips, okay? When I'm sitting down into the squat, all right, the whole myth of knees over toes shouldn't happen is a load of shit, because you cannot get a good squat position if your knees are not going over your toes, all right? It's probably, it's gonna load up your, like if you're not allowing your knees to travel forward, it's gonna completely, like really, really load up the lower part of your back, and you'll probably end up blowing out your back, all right? So you see at the top position here, I'll just go over a few things, okay? I've made sure my feet are relatively straight, maybe a little bit of a turnout, right? Done that whole midline stabilization at the top. My butt is nice and squeezed. Now, the very first thing that I do when I go down to squat is I load up my hips. See that little break at the hips there? Okay. That sits me in a heaps better position. And now these bigger muscles here are going to be taking a lot more of the load. Now, I'm not overextending in the lower part of my back. Everything's still moving together. and my core's still switched on. So I'm not just poking my butt out and breaking this position. I'm loading up with my glutes. It's only ever so slightly. And then I drop down into it and I allow the knees to bend. What'll happen at the top, if you break at the knees first, 90% of the time, if you break at the knees first, you're going to end up too far forward and your heels are going to lift up and you're going to be all out of position. And you're not going to have those hips loaded up, like the big strong muscles in your hips, to be able to get the most out of the movement, okay? So break at the hips, moving down, feeling that big toe, little toe heels the whole time, driving the knees out. Everything stays in a nice position, all right? And you see this bottom position here, okay? See, everything's still, there's no deviation at the bottom here, all right? You don't see my hips tip under or anything like that. My core, everything stays really, really switched on, all right? And one thing to note, if you have the mobility, my hips are lower than my knees, all right? Obviously, there are the cases where you can only get halfway if you got injuries, sometimes not even that far. But if you have not got injuries and you're a healthy body, you should be aiming for your squats to be below parallel, and that's below parallel there, right? A big thing that people do when I say go below parallel is they drop down into this position and they completely lose their core, like their midline stabilization. And you'll see it straight away. Their back will hunch over and their hips will tip under, all right? This is really, really bad if you've got a barbell on your back. Some sort of little hip deviation sometimes happens that, sometimes can't be avoided, but any sort of big movement there, you do not want happening, because if you've got a barbell loaded up on your back and something's shifting, it's just not good at all. Okay, you want to stay nice and strong this whole position, right? So when you guys are doing it yourself, a really good thing to do is video yourself from the side, and firstly, check if your hips are going low enough, right? And secondly, check if you're keeping a nice neutral, strong position. And then from the front, video yourself as well, and make sure those knees are sitting in a nice position, aiming towards mid-foot or even out towards the outside of your foot. All right, so we'll just have a look at a couple in full speed here. All right, enough talking. Time for you guys to practice it. We've lost Scott, he's disappeared. All righty, jump up. And I want to be seeing you doing some squatting. Here he is, he's back. Okay, so firstly, I just want you facing to the camera. So I want to see front on angles first. All right. So I'll just let you do your squat in your own time, rather than me sort of controlling it. And I'll just go around and give you a few cues if I see something going wrong. So just firstly, get yourself in a really good position to start. So remember, those feet are relatively more or less straight, or a little bit of a turnout. Okay, moving up the line, you're going to switch your glutes on and extend. So act as if you're screwing your feet outwards, all right? But they aren't actually moving, and you'll feel your glutes switch on. Okay, moving up, hips and your hips and your ribs are in line. They're not tipping either way, all right? Brace your core as if someone's going to punch you in the stomach. Yeah, and then everything else in a nice neutral position. So your shoulders, slight external rotation out, head and neck in a nice straight line position. Okay, now when you move down into the squat, remember pushing your knees out, keeping a nice brace position the whole time. The very first thing you do before you squat, and I can see you doing it straight away, Nandy, is you want to break at the hips first. So your butt should slightly, it's ever so slightly, should break first and go back, and then you go down, okay? If you go knees first, you're going to end up forward, all right? So go for it. You guys just go through and practice a fair few squats, and I'll just be watching you, giving you some cues. So just keep it a tempo like a 5 second lower. Pause at the bottom for a second or two and then raise up. All right, Scott, you look like can you go a little bit, is it comfortable for you to go a little bit wider with your feet? You just look like you're fighting yourself a little bit there.
I think I'm more fighting the turn of my feet because I'm normally like this.
Normal, like a duck feet? Yeah. So what that does, so everyone just stop there. I didn't really explain what that whole turn out of your feet does. So what it actually does, if your feet are turned out that way, you've got really, really bad control over your hips. You can't do that whole like switching your glutes on as well as you can if they're a lot more straighter. If they're turned out, you can't turn your hips on, and what happens is your feet collapse, your knees go in, and your knees blow out over time. Okay, so yeah, you want to get them relatively straight, but Scott, like I said, you want to work within your mobility, and it does. The more mobility you build, the easier it gets. Because I used to be a really big duck feet kind of squatter, but now I've just worked on it over years and years and brought them in a lot closer, a lot more straightforward. Okay, so it's just work on over time. Again, progressive overload. Don't just go straight and then you blow your knees out because there's too much torque in your knees. All right, just build it slowly. All right, jump up. Keep going through your squats. I want to see them from the front again. There you go again, Nandy. I'm watching you.
I was focusing on.
Yeah, that's good. Yep. Remember those hips back right at the start. Yeah, knees out, knees out. Yep. Standing back up. So yeah, you're fighting yourself because of that mobility. So yeah, working on that mobility daily is something you really, really need to do, and you'll find these squats get easier and easier. Okay, just rest there. All right, so something you can do to work on the squat mobility as well is sit in the bottom of a squat. If you need a pole or whatever to hold yourself up, then do so. But everything, feet flat, trying to stay in a good squat position, is a really good way to increase your mobility in the squat position. It really, really does. Yeah, I think you might be a little bit tight in the ankles there, Emma. Everything else is good to go. You need to work on those ankles a little bit. Okay, standing back up. Now I want to see side-on squats. Yep, in your own time, go for it. Remember those things, big toe, little toe, heel, should be balanced the whole time. Knees out, midline braced. Just sit in the bottom a little bit for me, Emma. Can you, yeah, your ankles are forcing your hips back a fair bit. Can you, like where you're holding on to before, can you sit down in the bottom of a squat side on front for me and see if you can drive those knees a little bit forward and try to get your torso a little bit more upright? Yeah, definitely work on your hip, your ankle mobility with those thinking poses. Okay. All right, awesome. Yeah, Nandy, I didn't get to see you. Go for it. Knees out, knees out. Good, awesome. Yep. Yeah, Scott, go again.
I'm getting pain on this side and at the front there.
All right, Scott, you're losing the position a little bit at the bottom. So you need to stay a little bit more braced and maybe, yeah, that's it, right there. That's your bottom position. Awesome. Okay. All right, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you a video of a few common faults with the squat. All right, so you're pretty much, are you happy with that? So you're pretty much done with the practical side of things. Now I'm just going to run over, you know, a fair few faults that I see that I think I'll put down for 3 common faults that I see all the time. There's obviously a lot more as well, but yeah. If you guys want me to do video analysis on your squats, just video them and send them in to me anytime and let me know. I'll usually do it on a Thursday and Friday, so towards the end of the week, and I'll get them back to you. And yeah, so maybe go away and practice all of this and send me in a video so I can reassess. Awesome. All right, so I'll get this video up. Okay, common faults. First one is what I was talking about before. So I didn't actually do it with the feet turned out. I completely forgot. But this is what I'm talking about when your feet collapse or your hips aren't switched on enough or you've got weak glutes. A lot of things can cause this, but majority of time it'll be weak glutes or your feet are too far turned out. Okay. So as you go down, see that? So, and it happens a lot when people load up their squats like with weight, and it's too heavy for them. It's too heavy for their glutes to be able to control. And just think like in your hips there, if you're loaded up in the bottom position and then you're just doing that grinding sort of in your hips, it can't be good. Okay, so there's that version where you're on your way up, you're losing control. Okay, see on the way down I was all right, but then I lost control on the way up. That's because of, there's a lot more tension to try to build it back up, and a lot of people do it that way. So ways to work on that, if you notice yourself doing it, do tempo squats. So, you know, 4 or 5 seconds lowering phase, stop at the bottom for 2 to 3 seconds, and then go up, okay? And really, really concentrate on keeping those knees out on the way up. Because I used to do it a fair bit, and those tempo squats and the pauses at the bottom really, really help you. It ends up like nearly impossible to do it if you really work those movements. Okay, and the other way is, yeah, you just got no control. Your glutes aren't switched on right from the start, and you can see, you know, everything's just out of position. Feet are collapsed, and yeah, your knees are coming in. All right, so that's really bad as well. Okay, another one. Lack of mobility in the ankles 90% of the time. Okay, feet coming up, putting a lot of pressure on your knees and on your ankles doing that, and you're just in a really shitty position. Like rather than have that nice big surface area there to be pressing into the ground with to drive up off the bottom position, you've only got like the forefoot. And plus there's another joint you've got to overcome. There's so much there that you lose power with as well. Okay. And this one, this is what I was sort of getting to with you, with Emma. Like yours is nowhere near this. Don't worry. Like you can see the replay and it's nowhere near this, but this is an over exaggerated one. This is the lack of mobility in ankles or just not knowing the position to bring your knees forward a little bit more. And this is the center of gravity's back, so I have to compensate by tilting my forward bending a lot more so that I bring that center of gravity. Rather than my knees pushing forward, everything bringing it more in line, and then I can have my torso a lot more upright. Another thing that happens as well, because you don't even realize you're doing it, because your eyes and head are straight ahead. Look at that kink in my neck. Now you're losing power because of that thing that I was talking about before. You're losing power because you've got a broken position. Whereas if you're in the nice stable position and your knees are forward, you can have a more neutral neck and everything works a lot better. Okay, so just a couple more reps of this. All right, so this puts, like, not only it's not the most optimal position to be in, but it puts a lot of load on. So you'll notice, like, rather than sharing the load over the whole of your lower body, it's putting a lot more on your lower back, so more chance of an injury there as well. There are variations where you can do this type of squat, but if you're going for the most efficient and you're not going for that sort of squat, then yeah, you need to just work on that ankle mobility and get those knees a little bit far forward. further forward, sorry. Okay, so they're those three things that I was talking about. So yeah, your knees coming in there. Yeah, your knees coming in. Well, they're either in at the start or they're in on the way up. Coming up onto the forefoot, so heels lifting, and then yeah, you're forward bending a little bit too much because you're not allowing your knees to go forward. All right, so now I'm just going to go over the actual skill of the barbell squat. So if you've got a really good, if you're happy with your body weight squat, now you can start loading it up with a back squat or any other sort of barbell or weighted variation. But I'm just going to go over the barbell for today. Nice looking face there. All right, so very first thing is your hand positioning. All right, the closer, so you want your hands just outside your shoulders. Obviously, this all depends on shoulder mobility as well, but the closer you can have your hands towards your shoulders, a better rack position on the back of your shoulders you can create, and you can just create a lot more tension in your upper back to hold the barbell and the load, and it'll stop any sort of broken position when you go down. It really makes a big difference. I used to squat with my hands out a little bit further, and then I got into this technique to bring them in closer, and it makes a massive difference, huge. Okay, so hands just outside shoulders. All right, I'll show you the position on your back from a different position, but there's a nice shelf there. If you get your hands in a good position, you'll see with this, think of putting your elbows in your back pockets, all right? Your elbows are going back and together, okay? Actually, a better way to think of it is trying to touch your elbows together behind your back, all right? You're not overextending in your spine, okay? Your spine is still staying neutral, but your your elbows are reaching back and together. And this really strengthens up the position as well as squeezing that barbell. Don't just have a relaxed grip on this bar, squeeze the barbell, create tension throughout this whole upper body, right? And it creates a nice shelf across, so it's just below that really annoying process in the back of your neck that always gets bumped with these, right? It's just below that, but on the big meaty part of your traps, okay? And once you find it, it's the sweet spot, and it feels really good to have a barbell there. Okay, so looking from the back, right? Everything exactly the same. See how much I'm gripping. I don't even, my hands don't rotate on the outside of this bar. The bar rotates in the actual rack. So I've got a grip on this. So I set myself up in the good position. I grip that bar, and I've got hold of that bar, nice and tight when I go into it, and I lock myself in, right? See how my elbows are coming back and together, and it sits in a really nice position there. I'm not overextending, so my back isn't overextended here. I've just brought everything back together and created a really solid position here. It's called white knuckles. That's when you know if someone's squeezing the bar. See my knuckles there? Nice and white. Okay, that means I'm squeezing it nice and hard. Okay, get that rack position, and it'll help your squat a lot. Okay, moving back to the front position. Right, everything's exactly the same that I was talking about. Midline stabilization, getting yourself set up in a good position. Big toe, little toe, heel, going down, knees out. Your glutes are switched on, your core's switched on, everything's in a nice neutral position, and you've got that nice strong rack position, and you're pretty much white knuckling it, trying to grip onto it. Okay, moving down, and the squat phase is exactly the same. Now your center of gravity is slightly different because the barbell is further back, so you do have to lean a little bit more forward. Like you'll find your body will naturally lean a little bit more forward with this, but you can still stay pretty upright, right? The difference between a back squat and a front squat, now you're moving the center of gravity forward, so you can stay heaps more upright. You'll see with people doing front squats, their torso is pretty much upright and their knees really drive forward. That's because that center of gravity is now forward, and you can just get into that position. Okay, one more rep from the front. Now from the side, all right. going back at the top here, okay? Not overextending in this lower part of my back. See, everything is nice and switched on. That's from good glute engagement and core engagement, okay? So you know if you're overextending, because that rib position, you'll be losing all the water out of your bucket, right? Same as the hips. If they're tilting forward, you're going to be losing all the water out of your bucket, okay? Nice on the level the whole time, right? See those elbows back and together, okay? Everything nice and strong. Right, bottom position, below parallel. Okay, you can see I'm not as low as what I am with that body weight squat. That is because the barbell's now on my back and the center of gravity is a little bit different. Okay, the further forward the center of gravity is, the lower you'll be able to get because your knees can travel forward. You can just get in that more upright position. But that is still low, below parallel. So my hips are still below my knees there. It's pretty much on the money. All right, another one here. Okay, so that's the barbell back squat, right? Have you guys got any questions on that? I know a lot of you is going to be back in the gym and doing that type of thing, and it's really, really important to be doing them properly, and this is on you to be doing them properly because I'm not seeing you face to face there. So it's really, really important you guys are doing it. Video yourself. Like I train by myself all the time, and I constantly, if I'm sort of a bit like unsure about a movement, whether I'm doing it properly, I'll video myself and I'll assess myself. So you guys video yourself, assess yourself, but also send it to me so I can assess it. Okay. Yeah, it's really, really handy, that stuff. All right, so last thing I'm going to show you before we finish up. Okay, common faults with the barbell back squat. There's a couple I didn't put in here that I probably should have, and guess what? They're exactly the same. Okay, knees in, losing that position, valgus knee. Okay, that is really, really common with barbell squatting. Like I said, when you start to load it up and you haven't got that control in the bottom, but do those tempo and pause squats and it'll get rid of it. Okay, just no position right from the start. Knees are in, no glute activation. All right, lifting up onto the balls of your feet. No power in this position. So we're doing a bit of a dance there. All right, and the last one, and this one's a really common one with back squatting as well, is really hinging forward, okay? Because like I said, that center of gravity is now backwards, so people are trying to compensate and pushing their hips really far back, right? And they still think they're pretty upright because they got that broken position and they're looking straight ahead, okay? A good way to know if you're tilting too far forward, keep everything neutral, so your head and eyes are neutral to your neck. And then you'll see, you know, are you looking out here in a good position, or are you looking straight down to the ground because you've tilted too far forward? Okay, another one, just while I'm in this position here, pretty good one to pause it on. Yeah, so a lot of times you see as well is people get into the bottom position and they'll lose tension. All right, it is so important, especially when you got weight on your back, to keep that tension. That upper back should just be so strong the whole time, and as well as the lower part of your back, you shouldn't be having too much of that butt wink at the bottom position. Okay, and that's about it. All right, that is it. Whew. A lot of info there, but I think it's really, really relevant. Like I said, it is a super fundamental movement, that squat. And then, yeah, if you can't do a body weight squat properly, then it's sure as hell you shouldn't be putting weight on your back. But yeah, I'm just giving you the information so that now if you have got a good body weight squat, you can go away and do those barbell back squats properly and more efficiently. So we're always about trying to build those positions and build that efficiency of the movement and creating more power so that you can get more out of the movement and be a stronger person. stronger, fitter, faster. All right. So, yeah. What do you think? Was that good? Good for you? Bit of info?
Yep.
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 Are there any of those faults that I've been going over that you sort of find yourself doing at all? Scott, anything there?
Yes, and I won't say which.
I want to know. Tell me.
I think it's kind of the knees coming in a little on the push back up in the weighted ones. So
Yep.
I'll try to tempo it a bit more.
Yeah. Super common thing. And yeah, like I said, those tempo ones, and even just that pause at the bottom, because what happens is, because you create so much tension on the bottom and you're just really trying to rebound, it does that. So if you're doing a pause at the bottom and you really focus on keeping your knees out and in that strong position, you even just keeping it really, like keeping it light, do that and fight for that position, you'll feel your glutes and everything just fire up. Like, you don't need to go stupidly heavy unless you got a good position there to start with.
Yep.
Right, awesome. Emma, have you got any that you know of?
I don't know. I haven't really seen myself squat from the side, so
Yeah.
I feel like ankle mobility is probably something to work on, but I might get someone to record me so I have a better idea.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it makes a big difference actually seeing yourself doing something. Yeah, and yeah, you honestly, you look like you got a pretty good squat. It's just that ankle range. It's either the ankle range or just not knowing that position. Just to fix that up a little bit. But it's not bad.
Okay.
All right, Nandy, what are you going to go away and do?
Oh, perfect form.
Yeah, and a lot of mobility weight. Yeah.
No, I lean forward, so I do that one where if I look down, I won't be looking at my thighs.
Yep.
I'll be looking at the floor.
Yep. Yeah, and that's an awesome indication. Yeah, your body's always trying to trick you. Okay, so you may be thinking you're staying nice and upright, but it's only your eyes and your head that's facing that way. If you keep everything nice and neutral, it'll tell you a different story. But yeah, you need to get into your mobility. That routine that we went over today, perfect. Really good to do daily. Do that whole body routine. Do those the thinking poses, and add a little bit of weight to them as well, just to help you out. Like, really, because they're really tough. Those deep muscles in your calves. Like, you're on them all day. You're constantly running. Really tough. So they need that load to stretch out. So yeah, get into it. It needs to be really consistent. Every day, every second day, something really consistent that can work with your routine, and you'll notice big differences. And also, like I said, just get in the squat position. What I used to do to practice all the time, because mechanic by trade, as I'd sit down instead of kneeling when I was working on trailers and stuff, I'd get in the squat position when I was really learning it. I'd sit in that squat position to rest and to work on the tires and everything. For you, Scott, working behind your computer all day, set an alarm 45 minutes in, you're going to do a 3-minute squat hold. You're going to sit there for 3 minutes. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And yeah, do that, 3-4 times a day, and you'll feel a big difference.
With the thinking pose.
Yes.
If you find that doing the weight on the front leg doesn't work, could you wrap a band around something and pull on that to get a bit more forward?
Yeah, you can. The weight will always work. You just got to get it in a good position. But yeah, anything just to pull that body weight forward. If you find something else that works better, yeah, definitely do it. A really good way to work on squat position as well. Like I said, if your center of gravity is more forward, you tend to be able to get in a much better squat position. So what you can do, if you've got a bit of a shitty squat to start with, you can hold a light weight. So, it only takes 2.5 kilos out in front of you. The further out in front, the better your squat will be. And then just slowly progress to bring it in closer and closer to you, and video yourself again from the side. But you'll find you put that weight out in front, and all of a sudden you're squatting like a champion. And then you take it away and you're like, what? But yeah, slowly, progressively bring it in closer and closer, and your body will learn those positions as you bring it in closer. Yeah, your body's really good at learning things. It's a new skill for a lot of people, especially if you haven't done it since you were a kid. Look at kids doing squats. They're perfect. because they haven't got any of those muscle imbalances or restrictions in there, and they can just squat like champions. Alrighty, any final questions before we finish up here? I think this is a really good one, and you would have got a fair bit of info. Yep, go Scott.
I have one that's unrelated, so I'll let them go first if they
Okay.
have one.
Yep, all good. Emma
No.
and Nandy. Nah. Awesome.
Okay.
Scott.
So unrelated to squats and stuff,
Yep.
I kind of noticed the other day that my back muscles are now out of whack. Like my left one's a lot more stronger than my right one.
Okay.
So they're quite imbalanced.
Yep. Yep.
What should I do about that?
Yeah. So when you're doing your single-sided stuff, always start with your weak side. Okay. So if you're doing like bent over rows, single arm dumbbell bent over rows, or a good thing, don't use a barbell, use dumbbells. Okay. So that you've got to control with both hands rather than the other one compensating. And only work as strong as your weak side. Okay.
Thanks.
So yeah, only work as strong as only work as far as your weak side can work. Okay. There's no use really compounding on it. Okay. You'll still get stronger on the other side. A lot of people think, oh, I'm going to get weaker on the other side. No, you're going to end up injured, because if you continually get stronger on the other side, it's going to shift you out of whack, and you're just going to compensate it here and there, and it's going to end up with injuries. So yeah, a really good thing to do is making sure all of your stuff, either doing single arm stuff, or if you're doing double arm, using dumbbells, and work to as far as your weak side can go.
Yep. So use the one that's on the weaker side to kind of like set the rep range.
Exactly right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So start with the weak. If you can only do 8 reps, that's all you're doing with the other side.
Okay.
If your other side can do more, then that's good, but no need to do it.
Yep, all right.
And they'll keep progressing up. One thing that you can do, and as I heard this a little while ago, just to give yourself a little bit more of a hit at the end. So start doing your first, 3-4 sets, whatever you're doing, with your with your weak side first, and just match it with your strong side. And then for the very last set, what you can do is you can do a max effort with your strong side, and then match it with your weak side, however many sets it takes. So, if you end up doing 12 with your strong side on that weight that you've been using, match it with the other side, even if you're doing a 5, and a 2, and that way you get a little bit more out of it. But the really big thing is only work to the weak side's capacity, and even it up, and you'll find you'll end up stronger that way as well, because you can, especially with like barbell movements and stuff, if you're weak on one side, you're going to be twisting and losing power. Like I said, that midline stabilization, if it's not stable, you're going to lose that power. So if your weak side comes up to be nice and strong, closer to your other side, then that's going to help you with it too.
Thank you.
Awesome. Right, Nandy, any final questions at all?
No. I was just going to suggest maybe you should do the one arm push-ups and pull-ups, just rip them.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I could do the
Let's get
pull-ups.
into them. That'll fix it. Just do some one arm pull-ups. On your weak side, don't worry about your strong side.
Yeah. When we finish up, I'm going to try to do a one-handed push-up and see how that goes. I'll message you
Awesome.
later about the injury that I can't work tomorrow for.
Yeah. It blows your shoulder out. Your arm's still hanging on there and your body's on the ground.
True.
Awesome. All right. Well, hopefully you've got a lot out of it. And I really enjoyed this one. Hopefully everyone else that watches this gets a lot out of it as well. Get into those squats, get into that mobility, test yourself, readjust, do your mobility work, position work, and retest yourself. Alrighty, guys. Catch us all later.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brody.
All right, see ya.